Hello there, welcome back and welcome to another exciting episode of the weekly sports roundup with me, your host Felix Munyeka. And in week 7, that's episode 7 of the weekly sports roundup, we have interesting stories, both that are good to listen to and those that are bad because of the details in those. But I would like to start firstly with appreciating or showing some appreciation for what's happening with this program. First of all, I would like to say thank you to everyone who's followed me on Facebook. We're now celebrating 11K, that's 11,000 followers on Facebook, and we have over 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you for doing that for me, and we'll continue providing you with the very best of sports news and sports stories as in relation to Zambia, and as we extend to the global audience and the continental audience when it comes to Africa. So I just wanted to share these few words before we get into the business of today, which is very interesting. So let me see you on the other side. Like I mentioned in episode 7 of the weekly sports roundup, we have some interesting takes and interesting stories when it comes to sports in relation to Zambia. And one of the bad news that we received this week is in regards to Barbra Banda's injury. So according to Orlando Pride, that's a team she plays for in the National Women's Soccer League in the US, Barbra Banda has an injury, hip injury, of course, which is they're calling it a season-ending injury, which means she won't be able to play until the end of the season. Yeah, so as of 24th August 2025, we have about 3 months, if I'm not mistaken, that are left before the end of the season, the regular season in the NWSL. And also they have some CONCACAF games that are coming up. That's the continental competition for North, Central and Southern America here. So that they have one continental competition that's coming up, and Orlando Pride is one of the teams that is competing in that competition. But unfortunately, with this, Barbra Banda won't be able to play in those games. And additionally, for the Zambia women's soccer team, that's the Copper Queens, Barbra Banda won't be available for the upcoming Africa Cup qualifiers between Namibia. We are looking forward to seeing Barbra Banda play, of course, but she won't be available with this new development, and it's quite unfortunate. But again, it presents an opportunity to other players to step up in the absence of their skipper and just give us what they can, their very best when it comes to competition and also contributing to the overall performance of the team. And but I mean, one thing hasn't been sitting well with me when it comes to Barbra Banda's injury and the processes or the situation that has followed up. I mean, it should be regular business in the world of football, but it brings a lot of questions when it comes to the welfare of the player and also what lies in the future ahead. So Orlando Pride, just a few days after Barbra Banda's injury, announced the signing a record transfer of one of the leading players when it comes to women's football in the world. And the player, of course, is young. I think she's about 25 years old, and she was playing for a team in the Mexican league. So the player I'm talking about is Lisbeth Jacqueline Ovare. I don't know how this is how you pronounce the name Ovare. It should be Spanish, so there's that Spanish touch to the name. So she's a Mexican professional footballer who plays as a left winger, and she's just recently joined Orlando Pride for a record transfer fee of about $1.5 million US. So what this means is that she's the most expensive player in the world of football, women's football right now. And as you know, Orlando Pride also had to break the bank when they brought in Barbra Banda, I think a couple of seasons ago. But now they have Lisbeth who's coming, and she has some impressive stats because between 2017 and 2025, she played for Tigres in the Liga MX Femenil in Mexico. Out of 283 appearances, she scored 133 goals. That's quite impressive. And she's played for the Mexican national team where she has 64 caps for the senior side from since 2018, and she scored 18 goals. So it will be interesting to see what she brings to the table, and of course, I'm confident that she'll be able to perform as expected, especially with the CONCACAF competition that's coming up for Orlando Pride in the couple of months. I think in a few weeks actually, because in a few weeks actually, because their first game should be in September somewhere there. Yeah. So coming back now to Zambia, the other two players that are playing in the NWSL, that's for Orlando Pride firstly, that's Grace Chanda and Prisca Chilufya. So for Grace Chanda, this season she has only made 3 appearances for Orlando Pride. She's not been in the match day squad for the past 7 games, which is really concerning, and this needs to be evaluated by the athletes, the footballers camp. Because I think the only time she's getting proper game time is when she's playing with the Zambian national football team. She's only managed to record about 30 minutes of play this season. 3 appearances, 30 minutes of play, and she's missed the past 7 games. So apart from, I don't think there's an update on injury in relation to Grace Chanda. She's not just, I think impressing the coaches to make the match day squad, which is a bit worrying, because I think she's still in her prime, and she's a magician whenever she's on the pitch. It's just that things are not going according to plan when it comes to time in the NWSL, and the camp, the people that manage her, and also everyone who's in those areas, they need to take interest and help elevate this situation. Then on the other hand, I'm quite impressed with Prisca Chilufya, who just recently scored the 2nd goal of the season. Of course, she's Zambian, and also she's playing for Orlando Pride. But one thing of concern is that in as much as there is competition, I think Prisca Chilufya is one of the players that you need in the team, because obviously she's hardworking, she defends, and she does more than what you bargained for. So it's quite impressive. This season she's played at least 15 games for Orlando Pride, starting 3, and I think the most recent game she played about 60 minutes in their last game where they lost against Angel FC, but at least she has 2 goals to her name. And these are not the stats that brought her from the Mexican Liga MX to Orlando Pride, because she was quite impressive that side, but she's still finding her footing in the women's National Women's Soccer League in the US. On the other hand, Barbra Banda has played about 16 games, if I'm not mistaken, scoring 8 goals, but with this injury, which means we won't see an improvement to those stats, and it will affect a lot of things in terms of other accolades that she was vying for. She was in the race for obviously the Ballon d'Or, which is still a long shot because the other factors are involved. The African Player of the Year, she won that last year, so this year the chances are a bit, the performance at the Africa Cup and also the injury that has come up. But at the end of the day, we just wish her a quick recovery, because she's one of the best. Personally, she's one of the best players I've ever seen. She's always a marvel to watch, especially if you're watching live. And she's done a lot for Zambian football, and we just wish her the best and a quick recovery as she recovered. But I wouldn't be doing justice. Obviously, I need to get rid of that team. But anyway, if I don't talk about Rachel Kundananji, because Rachel Kundananji is also one of the players that is making strides in the NWSL when it comes to Zambian football, African football, and of course, she's playing for Bay FC in the San Francisco Bay Area. So Bay FC has been one of the teams that had the breakthrough season last season, but this year things have been a bit difficult for the team. I think they sit 10th on the league table, but when you look at Rachel Kundananji's contribution to the team, she has played 17 games this season, starting 14, and I think the past 2 games she's been captain of the side. She scored 2 goals and assisted 3. Yeah, most recently they lost a game against Washington Spirit a couple of days ago, but she scored in that game with a very beautiful header. Yeah, and we expect them to come and obviously have a good time and step up in the absence of Barbra Banda when Zambia plays against Namibia in the Africa Cup qualifiers. Yeah. So this is roughly what's happening with Zambian players in the NWSL, that's the National Women's Soccer League in the US, but we expect a couple of Zambian players starting in 2026. We have the likes of Freedom Koma, who's playing in China right now, but she signed with Kansas City and she'll be coming to the US in 2026. The other addition is also, of Zambian player is Message Pasura, who's going to come to the US after turning 18 next year, 2026 in March. And some of the potential destinations for Message Pasura are Utah Royals FC, North Carolina Courage, and Angel City FC. So I've had conversations with some people from such teams and asking them, about the potential. No one has confirmed yet. And my last conversation with an official from Angel City FC, it was like they can't deny or confirm whether this transfer and whatnot. But yeah, so we just wait to see how things will turn out for these additions, and also obviously they'll be motivated by what the other Zambian players are doing in the NWSL. So we look forward to welcoming them to the US and them playing some of the finest football in the world when it comes to men's football the world has to offer right now. So with that, we wrap up the session on women's football and of course focusing on Zambian players in the NWSL. Moving on, of course, even this week, I need to do a bit in less than a minute or 2 minutes. Let me just address this in relation to Muzala Samukonga. Of course, what do people really want, There's been a lot of criticism debate in terms of Muzala's performance. Of course, people need to provide constructive criticism as fans, but some things are just personal attacks and are unwarranted because yes, he wins in the races. Next, he doesn't meet the podium. You see, this is a competition. You don't expect him to be winning every and each competition. If he does that, if he's able to do that, well and good. But there are some times when things will go down, then things improve. So we need to stand with him whenever things don't work well, as we stand with him whenever he performs well. So my question was, why does he face a lot of criticism, like personal attacks, when he doesn't, make the podium in his races? He was just racing a couple of weeks ago. He was racing a few days ago, but he didn't make the podium. The timing was off quite alright, but the criticism was unwarranted, especially on social media. I have a Facebook page where I share sports updates and whatnot. The comments there were like, bro, what are you doing? What do you want? Some of these comments and criticism are unwarranted, and we should do better as a nation, as fans. Muzala is still young, of course. He's carrying immense expectations, immense expectations. People were trying to compare him with the likes of veteran and former world champion Samuel Matete. Samuel Matete is a maestro. He's a maestro, if I can use this term in relation to athletics. But Muzala is still getting there. He's performing well. He's performing more than expected, but he's still getting there. You see? One comment I saw online when I was browsing was that, and I had to share this comment, was that, so they had outlined what former champion, legendary Samuel Matete achieved in his time. Then a comment was like, you see, the difference between what Matete did and what Muzala is doing is that Matete was based out of the country during this time, like training and whatnot, everything. I think it was in the US. That's why it was based around this time. Muzala benefited from the structures that were established between 2011 and somewhere between 2018 and 2020 in the country. You see, so whatever he's achieving now is more than expected, and we just need to support him. It still was a couple of races before the World Championships, and the World Championships will be the last competition of this year. And you can trust me on this one. You'll come back to this video and tell me, Felix, we're calling you out because of what you said. World Championships, we should expect a different Muzala. I know him when it comes to competitions of that magnitude. You come and tell me. Kwasira. Next, One interesting take or interesting thing that I saw this week was in relation to the Rugby Military Games. Yes. So Zambia, as a defense team in the UK right now, at the UK Military Rugby Games that are happening, and unfortunately they missed their first game due to travel issues against Ireland. So once they got to the UK, their second game was against Tonga. They thrashed Tonga 90-0, scoring about 15 tries, if I'm not mistaken. So this was a good motivation for the team, especially looking at the travel delays and issues when it comes to travel, but they still managed to pull up such a scoreline. And by press time, the time I'm recording, they still have a game against the UK Defence Force. So wish them all the best. And just for Christ's sake, this is a women's team. Yeah, so wish them all the best as they compete in the UK. It's always good to have athletes experience competitions at a level, at an international level, especially in countries like the UK, the US, or just in the Western world, because it gives them another perspective on how to look at things, especially when it comes to sport and whatnot. So we just wish them all the best. And such results put Zambia on the map. Zambia is a small country of about 20 million people, and when you put these results, Tonga is a smaller country, but in this case, we're talking about the platform that has been created for our athletes, and it's always good to see them, compete at such levels. And before I leave this episode 7, I just want to put in a quick one. ZESCO United Crisis. Come on, guys. There's news. I was like, I can't believe this. Why is this happening? So story time for those of you that won't really know what ZESCO United is. ZESCO United is one of the best teams, of course, because it's my team, in the Zambian Premier League. That's like the top division of Zambian football. They've been around for some time. They've had greater achievements in continental football and on national level. But the start of this year started with a crisis. ZESCO have been docked 3 points from their first game this season because they fielded ineligible players. They had 20 players in the matchday squad that have not been registered by the time the game was being played. Can you imagine that? Can you just imagine that? Up to now, I'm failing to believe that that is what happened. So there's been apologies. ZESCO have accepted being at fault in this situation, and I think the matter has been resolved. But justice, there's a lot happening around ZESCO United. ZESCO United has been my team ever since I started watching football, obviously because to different reasons when it comes to Zambian football. I traveled with ZESCO United as a supporter. I've been to Mighty Mufira Wanderers, I've been to Ghana Stadium, I've been around the Copper Belt. I've been to as many games for ZESCO United, and even in Lusaka when I was in Lusaka. But when you read such news, you ask yourself why such things are happening to a team like ZESCO, caliber of ZESCO United. And on the other hand, also there's something that hasn't been addressed, and due to popular demand or public interest, this needs to be addressed as soon as possible by management at ZESCO United. ZESCO United had a technical kit sponsorship with Umbro. It's an English kit manufacturing brand, but with, I think, operations in South Africa, because most of the kit comes from SA for ZESCO and other teams that are signed under Umbro. But this season, for the past 3 seasons or so, ZESCO has been using the same kit. No reasons have been given, and this season they have unbranded. Like, they don't have a kit sponsorship brand. They don't have Nike. They don't have Adidas. They don't have Umbro. They don't have Kappa. It's just plain. But they still have a kit sponsor for the front shirt. Like, for the front of the shirt, they have a kit sponsor, which is Access Bank. They have, I think, a long-term agreement deal on that one, but they still don't have a technical kit sponsor. And no explanation has been given whether the deal with Umbro expired or the deal is still on. And yeah, so I think those are some of the things that also need to be addressed by management at ZESCO United and how are things going. And a lot of people are saying that ever since former First President Justin Mumba left ZESCO United, things have been going downwards in terms of just performance on the pitch, in the behind the scenes, away from the pitch, and what happens is evidence to say things are not going well at my club. So yeah, I think these things need to be addressed, and they need to be looked at with a very analytical point of view because of the caliber of the team that ZESCO United is. I don't want to say much because, like I said, I just wanted to address this because ZESCO is my team, and obviously we saw that the Zambian Premier League and FAS Zambian Premier League and Topstar signed a new broadcast deal for the MTN FAS Zambia Premier League to broadcast the matches after SuperSport left the country. And there's been a lot of talk around this. You just know, when it comes to football politics, whether this deal was orchestrated by the former first president Andrew Kamanga, or it was struck by the new first president Keith Mwimba. People are laughing at the new first administration for signing such a deal. The deal is worth about $1 million per year, which is a bit less to the last deal that MTN FAS had with SuperSport. But I mean, for me, it's a good start because we can't have a league without a broadcast partner. $1 million is being compared to the first deal that former First President Karushabwa had signed in around 2015, somewhere there, which is like almost 10 years ago. That's how much the new deal is worth for about 5 years, which is $1 million per year. For me, it's a good start, but also presents an opportunity or an avenue for her to explore other opportunities to generate revenue for FAS and also the Zambian Premier League. Topstar being in country, obviously, also dedicating a specific channel, TV3, that will be responsible for showing all football games is a good start. And I don't think this should be something that people need to be laughing about or trying to criticize. You can just imagine having a league in a country like Zambia Football League that doesn't have sponsors. Just imagine that. Or broadcast partners, just imagine that. So I think this is a good start, and matches are already being shown on TV3. So I don't know what the fuss is all about. And just to mention that the new FAS administration or top management is facing a lot of criticism because obviously they had promises that were made. But I mean, these things take time. You see, these things take time. Over maybe after 3 or 4 months, that's when we saw a new GS come in, which for me, I don't think it was necessary, but I mean, these are politics. So the new GS come in, but you have other expected changes, obviously, because of the politics that are involved. But I don't think there's any reason to fix something that is not broken. But because people have personal agendas, so you expect these things, and everything can be done in whatever way they want it to be done, but it shouldn't just be at the expense of the beautiful game. We're still crying about Zambia's performance, the way performance has gone down. We still have the Africa Cup coming in December, if I'm not mistaken, for the senior team. The under 17 are going to the World Cup. All these things need to be put into consideration, when decisions are being made, and not just trying to impress a handful of people that you promised whatever I can give them. Anyway, for the love of football and sport, we'll still be there to support. Because for me, everything should be done with the interests of the athletes, the players. These are the people that keep things going. Whatever happens in the background is important, but it should be for the benefit of those people that walk into the fields of play, whether it's in the basketball court, whether it's the football pitch, whether it's in the swimming pool, whether it's on the track, whatever is used to play the sport, those are the people everything we do should benefit. One thing I don't like about my country is that there's always a lot of talk. No, we had this meeting to discuss this. We had this meeting, we engaged, but where's the action? You had that meeting 2 years ago. What has what is the result of that meeting, you know? So, like, let's stop talking a lot. Let's put things into action. Let's start working on those things. We've mentioned them, we've talked about them, we've had meetings with that, we've had consultations, but nothing is changing. Then what are we doing? You see? Yeah, so I don't want to sound political and whatnot. I just want to sound, I'm saying this because of the passion I have for the development of sports in the country at all levels. You see, one thing again, it's high time we started embracing, scientific techniques and the processes when it comes to sports science to change things in the country. We can still have backdated the policies, ideas for back in the day applicable 2025. That's why you're not seeing any development. We still have technical issues when it comes to sports around because people don't understand the rules that have been developed. People don't know how to do this. People don't know how to, like, why are we still using backward methods and processes when things have developed? This is 2025. We need to be competing at the highest level with the best techniques. That's why we are members of these different organizations, confederations, associations. What is stopping you as some sport in the country to reach out to some sport in China to say, bro, or not bro, obviously, but you guys are very good at table tennis. Exchange, how can you help us improve the sport? We've noticed that every time we go to competition, our athletes they can only qualify up to the second round. But the second round, when they meet teams that are similar to yours, we can't beat them. What's your secret? Can you help us develop sport? I don't think those countries would say no. It's just that we don't try. If we try, they tell us no, then we know the reason. But if we don't try, we will never know. And that is, we're not helping the athletes because we need to help them. I rest my case. With that point, I end episode 7 of the weekly sports roundup. It's always good to talk about sport in the country and ways that things can be changed. And like I mentioned, this week's sports roundup gives a different perspective to the already existing stories in the media or sports landscape in the country. So yes, this happened, but did you know about this? Or can you think about this? That's what we do on the weekly sports roundup. Thank you so much for the love and support I've already receiving, and I wish you all the best and God bless you. With that, ciao.